Hello, today we have to study about direction control valve. In a direction hydraulic circuit, the very most useful component is a direction control valve, where the fluid is flowing path is different every time. Every components and circuits are not a same path working with a continuous flow in a hydraulic system. So it's necessary to use direction control valve to give the flow direction of the hydraulic circuit in a different component and working parts. Direction control valve are one of the most fundamental part of hydraulic and pneumatic system. All type of the hydraulic system, all type of the pneumatic system use direction control valve DCV to give the perfect direction of flow in a hydraulic circuit. DCVs allow fluid flow into different paths from one or more sources. If you have to consider the hydraulic motor and pump set are only one, let's give a pressurized hydraulic fluid to a hydraulic circuit, but many more working component parts in a hydraulic system. The all component are not at a same time working or not same time actuating retraction and detraction action. So at this time, the direction control valve is most useful to give direction of the fluid flow for an working components parts. DCV will usually consist of spool inside a cylinder which is mechanically or electrically actuated. All types of the DCV direction control valve work with a mechanical working system or electrically working system. Externally, we give the motion to a DCV to change the direction of working fluid. Here you to study in this lecture. The first is a check valve. The types of DCV allow to fluid flow only and only one direction. It cannot be work in a return flow. The flow path only and only one direction. Shuttle valve. A shuttle valve allowed to flow in a two different direction. There is a input output is a three. Two as a input output and one is a common output. Three port is available there. It's work on a two different direction. Next is a two-way valves, three-way valves, four-way valves, and five-way valve. This is the types of direction control valve. This all type of the valve are as a divided according to number of ports and position. If you have to classify in a according to a method of actuation, for we have to consider that the first is a manual operated, the first is a palm operated, push button operated, hand lever operated, foot pedal operated, and cam or rollover operated. The second according to a method of actuation is pilot operated. Single pilot valve and double pilot valve. Single piloted work on a single side, we have to attach to a DCV, and double pilot we have to attach both side of the DCV. Same here, the according of the method actuation is a solenoid operated, single solenoid operated, and double solenoid operated valve. That's all are the types of method of actuation. But the main actuation type is and the part of direction control valve is a port and position, two-way, three-way, four-way, and five-way valve. This is the first direction control valve is a check valve. This figure is mentioned a check valve. This portion point is a inlet side. Next is a valve seat. It's give a sealing between the oil and surface of the valve. This portion is a ball which move right side and left side direction to flow of the hydraulic oil. There is the light spring. It's give a return back force to ball and it's sit back into its original position. This point are mentioned as a outlet. This point are is a symbol of check valve. Let me also know how it's work. If the pressure from the main hydraulic motor to hydraulic circuit where we have to attach the check valve in a series connection or any parallel connection. Another we can say the check valve sometimes we have to attach with the pressure control valve. Check valve is a unidirectional valve. Non-return valve types we can also say that which allow working fluid to flow in only one direction. It will not allow to working fluid in a other direction. Means that we have to flow from this side the oil from the hydraulic pump. The pressurized fluid create pressure inside the this ball and this ball move from left side to right side and spring is compressed. At this time oil can pass from this way to this way and outlet from this position. Means the working flow path is a check valve from this left side direction to right side direction. When the next level we can say the pressure from this inlet side is goes to a down, the spring will give the force on the ball and the spring is give the force on the ball and then at this time this valve close, the return back force of the hydraulic fluid that's are in a not working condition. That's time is not in a working condition. Means secondary side is not work. This is the symbol of check valve. This point is mentioned outlet side. This is the ball and this is the valve and valve seat. The flow direction you have to mention that's flow arrow direction is mentioned no flow during the check valve and this arrow direction mention the flow from inlet to outlet. The check valve also we can say as a NRV non return valve. In a one direction working fluid has flow through the control valve sequence valve we can use as a check valve and the other direction should be free flow. It's connected to a in a parallel connection to a other component like as a PCV. The next valve is a shuttle valve. The shuttle valve there is a two parameter P1 and P2 both are working as a inlet or outlet condition. Pressure P1 and pressure P2 both are inlet and outlet condition mentioned there. Here A is mentioned only and only output condition of the shuttle valve. Here is a two condition applied. Condition A, pressure P1 is higher than the pressure P2 and condition 2 is pressure P2 is higher than the pressure P1. We have to mention for that drawing the first condition is pressure P1 is higher compared to P2. Both sides are working. This the both sides are in a working condition. Pressure P1 and pressure P2 both are in a working condition. But pressure P1 is a higher. If the applied the P1 is a higher pressure from this side, this circular ball are move from this right side. Here this ball are move from the right side and he closed the P2 side. This is the wall seat and wall back. This ball move from the right side and is closed the P2 side and fluid are flowing from P2A direction and coming out from the shuttle valve. If you have to put in a condition 2 is P2 is higher than the P1. At this time, the pressurized fluid enter from the P2 side and the bowl is moved from right side to the left side and it's closed the P1 side port and the oil from P2 it's passed to P2 to port A. This is the symbol of the shuttle valve, pressure P1 point, pressure P2 point, and this is the outlet A. This is the ball. It's a working depend on the pressure difference between the P1 and P2. The next type is a two-way valve or 2 by 2 DCV. First, we have to show how we can mention the name. Here, the first is a 2 by 2. What is the meaning of 2 and divide by 2? What is the meaning of 2? First digit are mentioned number of port. How many number of the port are available? 2 means here the port 1 and here is a port 2. This both are mentioned a number of port are available in the direction control valve. And the second point is mentioned means second digit mentioned 2. 2 means number of position possible. 2 means number of there is a position possible. The position 1 and position 2. Two position are possible for this two-way valve direction control valve. We have to show in a working process path. This is the port 1. The port 1 is directly connected to a hydraulic pump motor set where is the oil can pass from this direction control valve. This is the lever or manual operated and for an actuation. This point are mentioned as a spool. This is the dark point are mentioned a cylinder of the DCV and these are also a piston type the spool. Here this portion are mentioned as a spring where the we have to sit back is to original position via the spring force. The first position, the port P are closed. The fluid are not flowing from the port. And the secondary position, we have to move spool in a right side direction. The working fluid flow from the port P and to a port A. Means the port is open and a fluid flow from the port P to port A. Means these position are mentioned a working position and these position are mentioned as a stop condition. Here the symbol also mentioned that this square block we have to draw. First we have to draw square block for any direction control valve. Then after that we have to put another square block for the direction control valve. The first position are mentioned the point port A to point port P. That's are mentioned the fluid flowing from port P to A or A to P. That's are mentioned. And here this T shape are also called as this point are mentioned the valve position are closed means fluid are not flowing from this position. That's a side portion is given a mention that this valve are manually operated. This portion are mentioned a valve is operated by solenoid. The spring is mentioned that the valve is operated return back with spring. Here we have to attach the two spring. The next valve is three-way valve. Here you have to also understand about 3 by 2. What is the meaning of 3 by 2? First 3 and second digit is 2. The meaning of 3 is mentioned the point 1, point 2 and point 3. These 3 points are called as a port. Port 1, port 2 and port 3. This number of port is 3. And 2 means number of position possible. Number of position possible means there is a one position possible, and here the second position are possible for 3 by 2 DCV. 3 means number of port and 2 means number of position. The first position, the hydraulic oil are passed from the point P to port A. Here the fluid flowing from the port P and pass through the DCV and exit to port A. Here this is the main body of the direction control valve. This is the spool and operated by the push button or manual actuation are possible. Here this flow path are passed from the oil from port A to port P. This position we have to mention in this diagram. This diagram are mentioned a position 1. Second, after the position is 2 when the port P is locked and port A and port T is are open. The port P are locked and port A and T are open. At this time, it's mentioned that after the extraction process, the cylinder come back to its extraction process. The oil are drained from the hydraulic cylinder. This drain oil pass from the direction control valve and it's give the direction from port A to port T. After that, the T points are mentioned a hydraulic tank. We can drain this hydraulic oil into the hydraulic tank. Here you to mention in the symbol, this portion are T-shaped portion are as a close. Means this portion are here close. And the fluid flow from point A to T means this arrow direction mentioned the fluid are flowing from A to T. This is the 3 by 2 direction control valve. The next is a 4-way valve with 2 position. 4-way valve with 2 position. Here meaning of 4 means number of 4 port. Port 1, port 2, port 3 and port 4. Number of port 4. And the meaning of 2 is the position possible is 1 and position possible is 2. 2 position are possible for this 4 by 2 direction control valve. Here T and T we have to consider same. Both port are same connected to a directly return hydraulic tank. These are not individual, but that T and T are common port. So you have to consider in a single. First position are the oil from the pass from the port P. Then after this oil can pass from the direction control valve and exit to a port B. This we have to mention in this direction. We have to add the text for this portion as a P. And here that this portion as a T. Here we have to give this portion is a B. this portion mentioned as a A. This 4 point port P means from pump, T means direct to a tank, and a B and A is connected to a hydraulic circuit. When the first oil passes from the hydraulic pump to a direction control port P to port B, means here this arrow are mentioned, the oil pass from the point P to B. And another side of the four-way valve, the oil pass from the A to direction control valve and direction control valve to return to a tank T. Here, this is the mention is a oil pass from the A point and return to a tank. This is the position first. Then after the position are changed, actuation we can change in a position number 2. We have to move the actuation method. We have to push this spool in a right hand side direction. The spool totally move from this original position to right hand direction. At this time, the inlet outlet port can change its position, means we have to change the flow direction. The port P, the hydraulic oil from the hydraulic pump is first condition is passed from P to B. In a secondary condition, the oil pass from P to A. We have to mention that the point P, port P, the oil pass from P to A. And the secondary condition is that the return back of the B oil pass to tank. Here, this condition are mentioned, the return oil from B port to a tank. This is the working of 4x2 direction control valve. The next is a 4-way valve or 4-way 3 position, so 4x3 open centered DCV. There is a 3 name possible for this type of the valve. First is a 4-way valve, 4-way or 3 position valve, or 4x3 open center direction control valve. You have to know the notation for that. This point T is mentioned a tank. Port P mentioned a oil coming from the hydraulic pump. This also a T mentioned as a tank. This both type of the T are common, not a individual. We have to consider only one. Here the port is B and port A. That's both point port A and B is connected to a hydraulic circuit. This portion are mentioned as a body of the direction control valve. This portion are as a spool and this pink portion are called as a bore of the direction control valve. Then after we have to show about the working of 4-way valve, 4-way 3 position valve or 4x3 open center DCV. The position 4 we have to study in our previous slide. The position 1 and position 2 are common. Position 1 and position 2 are common. This method I have to mention is here position 1 and position 2. The first position is mentioned, the oil are passed from port P to port A, and the next another side of the DCV, the return back of the oil from B to T, means this position are here mentioned. In the last position is mentioned, the oil is passed from P point to B port. The oil passed from P to B, the position is here, and the A is returned to a direct tank. The port A returned to a tank in a tank reservoir. This position are common as our last slide. The middle position is called as a open center position. These position are mentioned as a open center position. We have to know in this figure open center. Open center means the oil pass from the port P. The first point is oil pass from the P. That's oil are passed from the oil port means tank T, port A and port B. All port are open. At this condition, the all port are open and hydraulic oil pass to pump through tank port A and port B. That's position called as a open center. The all position are open. The working fluid are passed from all ports. The next is a four-way valve, four-way valve, four-way and three position and 4x3 closed center DCV. There is a number of position possible is 3. 4 means number of port available in a 4 and position possible is 3. The two position we have to clear in our previous slide. The position 1 and position 2 we have to clear in our previous slide. Here in we have to study about the middle position. Middle position is a close center position. The close center position. This diagram mentions that the position of center is close. Here the oil are passed from the hydraulic pump to P and enter into the direction control valve. Then after that, this both spool are closed the all port. That means that the oil are passed from the port to direction control valve. But here, this oil are not passed from the port A, port B and tank T. The oil are closed inside the direction control valve. That is position is called as a close center position. Means oil are not passed from any port. Here the next is Tandem Center 4x3 DCV. This is the drawing of Tandem Center, port P, tank T, port A, port B, spool and bore. The direction control valve. The first two position already we have to clear, position 1 and position 2. We have to study about the center position of direction control valve. That's also mentioned as a tandem center. We can say the tandem center means the oil are passed from the P, means oil are directly passed from the P to a direction control valve. At this position, oil pass from the pump to direction control valve. Then after this oil pass from DCV to return to tank. This oil pass from the DCV and return to a tank, but the oil are not passed to a port A and port B. Port A and port B are not passed the hydraulic oil to a hydraulic system. Means these port are closed. This is the diagram also mentioned that port A and port B are closed. The oil coming from the hydraulic pump enter into the direction control valve and return to a tank. P means pump, T means tank, A and B means hydraulic connection. This oil are only and only pass from the direction control valve and return to a tank, but oil cannot pass in a hydraulic systems. That can stop the all procedure of the hydraulic working system. The next is a regenerative center. regenerative center. Regenerative center, in a hydraulic symbol, there is a mention that the oil pass in a both direction or both port. The oil pass from the hydraulic pump to a port P. The hydraulic oil pass from the hydraulic pump through hydraulic port P. Then after that, these oils are entered into the direction control valve. And direction control valve give the both port point A and point B are open, not in a sequentially, directly open port A and port B. These oil are equally pressurized and pass to point A and point B. Both point are in a operating condition. Either may be a input or either may be a output. The flow direction is not maybe fixed. This either may be a input and they either may be a output. The return of the hydraulic tank at a point T are closed. Here the oil cannot pass to a return condition, means point T are closed. Only and only the hydraulic oil pass from the point P to port A and port B. The symbol are also mentioned that the point P hydraulic oil pass to A and pass to a B. The return point, the T is mentioned not written on a hydraulic oil to a tank. The next is a floating center. Floating center means this is the opposite of regenerative center. This is the regenerative center. Here to pass oil from point P to A and B. In a floating center, the opposite position, the oil are drained from position A to position B to a tank. Here point P is a clause. Point P here is a clause, means oil are not passed from the port P to another port. The next condition is that the return oil from the hydraulic circuit from port A and port B, it's returned back to a hydraulic tank. This both sides are mentioned returning of oil from the hydraulic cylinder and give its return back to a hydraulic tank. The mid position symbols are mentioned like is here. The point P or port P are closed, A, B and T are open. This mention hydraulic oil are returned from A, B to tank T. The next is a 5/2 DCV. 5 means number of port is a 5. The meaning of 5, the number of port is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. The 5 port are available in the direction control valve, and the meaning of 2 is 2 position are possible. The 2 position are possible for this type of the pump. This type of the pump mostly used in a multi-purpose work because of the one port only and only give the input side, and the 5/2 operating valve is mostly used for a multi-purpose work. Here the point 1 is considered as a point P, means there is a connected to a directly hydraulic pump. The what hydraulic oil enter from the point 1 and exit to port 2. In the next condition, the hydraulic oil enter from the point 1 and exit to a port 4. These two positions are possible. The another actuation, the point 4 is returned and returned to a port 5. Here, the return of oil port 2 and return to a 3 means here one point is mentioned only and only input condition, means is directly connected to a hydraulic pump and it's give a pressurized oil to a 5 by 2 direction control valve. This oil can pass from port 2 or port 4 as the position of engaged position or disengaged position. Then after the oil is returned from port 2 to 3 directly connected to a tank, or port 4 is returned to a port 5 is also a directly connected to a tank. This is the 5 by 2 direction control valve. Here you have to mention the numbering and position and arrow diagram of the flow of hydraulic oil. One is mentioned a hydraulic pump directly connected. 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the input output port to a hydraulic working systems. Okay, thank you.